Jeff Veale, the business guru, with a special guest today with 15 minutes of fame. And if you'd like to have 15 minutes of fame, why not reach out? All this month, we're interviewing people from around the world and hearing their stories of, where they've been, where they're going, and how they can help us with their 15 minutes of fame. So today I've got a very special guest, and I'm going to be introducing him shortly, but let me tell you a bit about him. His name is Colin Mackie. And Colin's current role, I'm tongue-tied here, guys, is CEO of an interesting company, Evo Enterprises, right? And also CEO of Enterprise 21. And it's industry, he's doing manufacturing in China and Thailand. He exports all over the world, basically, guys. He'll tell you about it and show you, actually, a very interesting product. You'll be amazed. He exports to USA, Canada, virtually all over the world. He's also a very interesting guy, guys. This guy's done everything. He was 40 years in the franchise sector. Imagine that, guys, 40 years. So if you want to know about franchising, building businesses, and growing, Colin's a man for you. He's written books on the subject, etc. Brief description of his business. He manufactures a multi-patented Australian invention for people who smoke that is healthier than economical, tastier, and less environmentally harmful. And he markets it through a distribution network, mainly in the USA and Canada. So if you want to know more about that, Colin will be telling us about it shortly. So there's a lot here, guys. I've got pages and pages on Colin because he's a, here it is, guys, pages of it. So what I'm going to do, without further ado, we're going to go over and introduce. Welcome to the show, Colin.
Good afternoon or good evening, wherever we are in the world. Nice to be on your show.
Colin, what we'd like you to do is can you tell us about your journey? What inspired you to pursue your current career, and where are you, and what are you doing with yourself these days?
Okay, well, I started business originally when I was 7 years old. My mother had a beautiful garden, and when it came to the autumn, I'd go around and collect the seeds, dry them all. And once they were dried, I borrowed, if you like, the little envelopes that you used to get in the church. If you couldn't go to the church on Sunday, you put the money in an envelope and handed it in. Well, those made lovely little packets for seeds. So I would do that, and I'd go around the doors and sell them. At 11 years old, I heard about the sawmill. It gets the trees in, goes on through the saws, and there's the sides of the trees, the bark, a fair amount of timber. So I got the contract from them, and I hired a truck and a driver. I would collect all these things, take them home, pay kids from school on a double-ended saw, saw them up, and then sell them as firewood. I started my first real business at 19 years old. I bought a van, converted it all, fitted it out as a mobile restaurant. And by the age of 21, I owned 2 houses, no mortgages, owned 2 houses and had cars. But it just doesn't happen just because you want it to happen. It happened because I was working 104. It doesn't just happen.
Colin, what happened to the 4-hour work week? I read a book that says there's a 4-hour work week. What happened to that?
If you want to be successful, you got to start and work bloody hard. Maybe as you get older, you can take it easy. So when I sold that business, I had a friend who, because I worked those long hours, this other guy also worked long hours. His father had died and left him a mink farm. So Douglas, every year, the story was he would borrow money from the bank, and they would use that money to feed and look after these mink. At the end of the year, they would make the minks, skin them, sell them, pay the bank, and start again. He never made any real money. So I thought, I can think of a few things to do here. So he and I went into partnership. We were talking about partnerships earlier. They're a dangerous thing. So anyway, Douglas and I went into partnership, and one of the biggest expenses for feeding the mink was the food, obviously. And what he was doing was driving to England and buying blocks of frozen, what they call fallen stock meat, animals that die on the farm of natural causes. So I thought, well, why don't we have one of those in Scotland? So we set up Telford Mackie Fallen Stock Contractors. And some great stories there. You find them in different books I've written. So one of the things that he discovered was that there was a big turkey farm who were breeding turkeys from the egg through to oven ready. And every week, maybe 3 or 4 times a week, they had huge 55-gallon drums of turkey offal. So we got the contract to uplift these. So we mixed the turkey offal with the fallen stock meat with the fish trash that we had somebody collecting for us. The minks were beautiful, absolutely beautiful. At the mating season, we didn't have any male minks. We only had female minks. So we borrowed 15 white female minks. So if you believe in reincarnation, you should put that down on your list, because these 15 males had to service 2,000 females.
I wish I was a mix.
They did their thing, but not one of the females was pregnant. So these guys really thought they'd died and gone to heaven, because we got them back and made them do it all again. And again. So we phoned the Ministry of Agriculture. They came out and they took some of our females away, took the males away first and said they were perfect. There was nothing wrong with the males. They weren't ours anyway. But the females, we had 2,000 sterile female minks.
Unbelievable.
And you know the reason? Because in the turkey farm, we're feeding the turkey with a sterilizing agent to make the turkeys
bigger.
We're taking that, mincing it up and feeding it to the minks.
Yes.
So that was just the mink farm. So I discovered then that I had a talent, if you like, looking at businesses that were run down, that just needed a tidy up, my marketing, close the door, refurbish it, paint it, whatever, market it, and then open the door. So I went through a fair amount of businesses. Being a businessman, you don't need to be a fruiterer, or you don't need to be a mink farmer. I didn't know anyway, mink farming. Business is all virtually the same rules apply all the way through. And it was only when I was I think it was on the Gold Coast about 4 years ago, I went for a luncheon, a business luncheon. And there was, I think there was 15 people lined up on this big long table there, and we're all chatting away, and everybody got 5 minutes to say their thing. The lady opposite me, she says, well, I'm really proud of myself. She says, I suffer from, what was her problem? It was extreme stress and pressure and stress. She says, but I've overcome that and I'm now successful in my business. And about 4 or 5 down, this lady says that she was manic depressive. She says, I'm manic depressive, but I've been successful as too. So when it came to me, I said, well, I've just had an epiphany here. When I was a little boy, they used to tell me that I had a grasshopper mind. I would jump from here to here to here to here, just jump from one thing to the next. I says, I've just realized that I was ADHD. But I says, however, if you think about what I had to do in the franchising industry, and we had the largest franchise consultancy, somebody would walk in and they had a pet wash business. The next guy, car wash. This guy has a restaurant business. No matter what business came in there, I had a knowledge and experience. So I was able to help those people build them into franchise systems, regardless of what it was. And it was because I was a grasshopper mind. So in the morning, I might be talking to somebody about car washing. And in the afternoon, I'm talking to somebody about some software program that he's going to put on a franchise system. So ADHD is not necessarily a bad thing. I don't think it was ADHD. It was probably attention deficit. I don't think I had the hyperactivity, although I used to get up about as soon as the sun rose in Scotland in the summer, which was about 4 o'clock in the morning. I was up there shortly after that, and the sun didn't set till 11 o'clock at night. So I was outside playing as much as I could.
Colin,
anything particular?
Yeah, can you tell us, Colin, an important moment in your career that changed the direction in which you're now going?
Well, I'm in a different. I've got a couple of things going. There's the manufacturing business. Let me talk about the manufacturing business. In the franchising industry, I used to write articles for all the business magazines. I get a phone call. This guy says, I've just read your article there. He says, I need to speak to you. You're obviously someone who thinks outside the square. We have a product. We don't know how to sell it. Can you come and speak to us? So I went up. I'll show you the product while we're at that here. So this is the product that they had invented. It was given 5 patents. It was designed originally as a method for stopping people or helping people to stop smoking. There's your bowl. This here gets filled with, at that time, tobacco, tap, tap, tap. There's your tobacco there. Light it, smoke it. No paper taste, no paper chemicals, no cigarette butts anywhere. The coolest, smoothest smoke ever. All that's left in there is 100% biodegradable ash. Tip the ash out, close it up, put it back in your pocket. No cleaning, because this here is your filter system, right?
Fantastic. You found another
But-
use. You found another use for this in America in recent times.
Well,
Tell us
what's
about
happened-
that. Tell us about that, Colin.
Yep. So the tobacco is too hard to advertise and market. But in America now, there are 35 legal marijuana states. If you take California alone, it has 40 million people there, and 17% of those smoke marijuana. So that's a lot
Unbelievable.
of people.
Big
So for
market, guys.
marijuana, this is the absolutely perfect thing here. So it was being made. This one was made in China. I'm going to recommence manufacture here in Thailand. I'm living in the north of Thailand here, and I've been here off and on for 11 years. So I'll manufacture that here. So I'll be looking for distributors. I'm going to need actually partners. I've got to build a factory. I need a factory manager. I need somebody to manage the factory. And I'm going to I have 4 divisions. It's perfect for tobacco, but there's certain things that need to be done. Marijuana is huge. Germany has just become legal.
Wow.
Poland,
Even-
happening.
Even Thailand, Colin. Surprise, surprise.
Yeah. And it's the easiest thing in the world to sell, because when people see it and then realize that it's healthier, the filter in there is 52% better than a cigarette filter. It's healthier, it's cheaper, it gives you a much cleaner, tidier, smoother, cooler smoke. So it's got all those things. So I'm just at that cusp now of, I know Colonel Saunders was a bit old when he started.
And guys, let me tell you, he looks about 40, but Colin's in fact 78. So you're never too late. The guy's full of beans, right? He might be on the marijuana. Somebody's keeping him going. On that subject, how do you stay motivated and continue to innovate in your field, Colin?
I think the motivation and the enthusiasm was cultivated at a very early age. I don't think it's something that you can just develop. It's either in you or it's not in you. And I've got lots of things. Anybody think at all about what we're talking about and more, I've got a heap of stuff. So motivation is, I actually teach, or used to teach, motivation. For instance, many, many years ago in 𝐂𝐨𝐺𝐻, I thought these people here are totally unmotivated. So this is a very good lesson for people in business. So I didn't want to make money. I was just trying to help people. So I ran some ads in the 𝐂𝐨𝐺𝐻 post. It was called Sales and Motivation Training, free. Nobody came. So I put Sales and Motivation Training, $10, and I got 2 inquiries. Then I made it $20, then $40. When it got up to $60, then I had 30, 40 people in the room.
Amazing, yeah. People value, see, they pay for something, they value it. That's the point here, guys.
When you make it for nothing, well, that's what the value is. That's, according to them, that's what the value is. So the first thing I used to do there, I used to say, okay, ladies and gentlemen, put your hands up if you've come here for me to motivate you tonight. And of course, that's why they were there. And I had a chair always to the side of the stage. And I says, well, I'm very, very sorry that I cannot motivate you. And I'd go and I'd sit in the seat and I just go to 10. But 10 is a long time when everybody's sitting in that obvious. That bugger's just ripped me off. Then I get up. I can stimulate you. I can give you an incentive, the carrot or the whip. But that kind of motivation is very temporary. As soon as the carrot's gone or the stick's gone, there's nothing. The only true motivation comes from inside. And the only way you can develop motivation is to have a desire. And that was the thing. I've run many workshops, hundreds of workshops over the years. And unless somebody has a desire, nothing happens. They've got to want, and it doesn't matter what the desire is, whether it's a world trip or a new Mercedes or a big house. If they don't have a desire, there's the lack of oomph. There's no enthusiasm, and enthusiasm sells. You go into a shop and say, "Oh, my name's Colin Mackie, and I was wondering blah blah blah." Nobody's interested.
Yeah,
you go in there and say, "I'll show you something really interesting." they're being infected by your enthusiasm. So there's lots of lessons like that, but that's, with me, I think that enthusiasm is just now just part of my character.
Fair enough. Colin, what advice would you give some aspiring, young aspiring entrepreneur to follow in your footsteps? What advice would you give them?
Well, first of all, it depends on the kind of business. If you're looking at a type of bricks and mortar, a shop type business, the first thing you need to do is to get my book, which is called The Quantum Leap, Owning Your First Business. And why I wrote that book, and this is important as well. In Australia, 82% of all new businesses fail. That means that only 18 businesses succeed. Now, when I switch my computer on in the morning, I've maybe got 5, 6, 8, 10 companies all trying to sell me some course to be successful. So just imagine that some of these actually worked. So instead of having 18% success rate, these companies were able to get these people all motivated, and we had 36%. Would that be good?
Fantastic.
No, we wouldn't, because then you've got twice as many hairdressers, twice as many dog washes, twice as many nail salons. Well, you cannot have more than the number within a couple of percent of the businesses we've got at the moment. You have a market and it has its limits. You can't put in more businesses.
Correct.
But there is a way to get that to 36%, and that's by only having 50% of the people going into business. And
Yes.
I've discovered, that's been my whole life, is that some people should not go into business. That book is not spreadsheets or anything at all. It's about morals and ethics. If you don't have morals and you don't have ethics and you're not going into business for the right reason, don't go into business. So the business, you have to explain things like partnerships, right?
Yes.
About lawyers and about leasing agents and all those things, all true stories that I've gathered over the years. So that's the first thing. Other business, really, you need to seriously consider if you've got the attitude. It's all about attitude. And if you're not honest, you'll last for, like, you could last for 2 years or 3 years. You might not, but you've got to, you don't sell anything. I teach sales training, and the sales training is don't sell anything. People are needing something, you find out what they need, and you satisfy that need. If your product is not suiting that person, do not do it. That's morals and ethics, but it's also good selling. Because if you sell something to somebody that needs it, they will tell everybody else, and all of a sudden, you've got a massive business. Sell something that they don't want.
I'd also add, Colin, that one of the ingredients I believe you need, guys, it's not around in abundance anymore, is common sense. Right.
But that's called the uncommon sense.
Yeah,
I think
correct.
John Law's up on his radio. Common sense, the very
looking ahead, Colin, you're always fired up. What are your goals and aspirations for the future?
Well, I'm just in the process of negotiating a deal that's at the top. It's $10 million. So if I get this $10 million swung, I have to make some decisions. I'm going to be 79 on my birthday. Do I want to retire? No. And you know why I don't want to retire? Because as a young man, I watch people like me who their whole life was business, 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 business.
And they shrivel up.
That's right. And the minute they retire, my brother's one of them. He was forced into retirement. Within a year and a half, he was dead.
That's right. I've seen it many times. We need, guys, we need motivation. We need something to keep us alive and keep us going, get us out of bed in the morning.
So my motivation, if I did that and take that retirement thing, I've got lots of books to write. I've just finished my memoir from the age of 15 to 30. And actually ended up being 180,000 words. Wow. And the thing in there were pretty much unbelievable. I'll try and give you a little snippet. When I was 15 or 16, I had a motorbike, and my father had 5 businesses. So in the little pond that we lived, I was a major catch, right?
Yep.
So what happened was I ended up, this girl and I became boyfriend, girlfriend, no sex. I had a motorcycle accident, came out of there, we had sex. The next thing was her father, and I'm just turned 17 out of the hospital. He grabs me and he says, "My daughter's pregnant, you're going to marry her or else." So And again, I'm just briefing over. That child was stillborn. I wasn't
Wow.
allowed to tell my parents, by the way. My parents didn't know I was married for 6 months. The child was stillborn. And I lived with that woman for 9 years, and we had a couple of other kids. Here's the catch. About 3 years ago on LinkedIn, a guy contacted me and said, would you like to link up with me? Looked at his profile. He was in business. He was in Malaysia. Sounded good. So I linked up. Then he came back and he said, by the way, he says, we've got more in common than just business. He says, you're my father.
Ah, unbelievable.
He was the stillborn child that was illegally adopted out.
Wow,
And the
wow,
reason
wow.
she'd done that was because she was having sex with 2 of my best friends when I was in hospital. And both of these guys didn't look anything like me. So she couldn't risk the child looking like Jim Ferguson or Jimmy Flockart at all. So,
Unbelievable. What a story. Guys,
yeah, well, that's just the
that's some of it, guys. Get a hold of Colin's books. I've got to wrap this up now because Colin's like me, could talk underwater. Colin, before we wrap it up, could you tell us where can people contact you and how can we get in touch with you? I'll be putting all your socials on the bottom of YouTube and all the different media outlets, but how can people get in touch with you, please?
Probably the easiest one is through the enterprise21.com.au. That's the franchising one there. If anybody's interested in the pipe, it's easy to remember. It's automaticpipes.com. So
Fantastic.
that will get me. But actually, if you go onto Google and type in Colin SL Mackie, you'll find lots about me in there. And by the way, the SL is super important. You know why? You know what the SL stands for? Super long, because I have a really long memory. I can remember all sorts of things.
I was going to say super larrikin, but that's another one. Guys, I've got to wrap this up. I'm Jeff Veale, the business guru. I've enjoyed having Colin as our guest today. And if you want to be on a 15 Minutes of Fame, reach out. We're doing it all this month, guys. 15 Minutes of Fame, where as you can see, it's all about you. We give you a chance to promote yourself to the world. We put you on all the social platforms. Unlike other people, we put all your links on YouTube down the bottom there so people can contact you. You've been a fabulous guest today, Colin. I've enjoyed having you on the show.